Welcome, friends,
to the How-To Heretic.
I'm Uncle Mark.
And I'm Uncle Dan.
And I'm Uncle Doug.
And this is your user's guide to life on the outside.
That's right. Leaving religion is the first step into a larger, better world.
But it can also be a scary world. Things work differently now.
Never fear. That's why we're here.
We're your audio uncles, and with help from good friends and experts in all sorts of fields.
We're going to share the stories and seek the knowledge to build a great life.
After all, you only get one that we know of, so you better make the most of it.
Well, my dear uncle friends,
here we are, the Troika,
the Troika of the Exploitcha, and we are episode I think 91 sounds like the right number.
Yeah, that's right.
Cody, fix it if it's not.
Episode 93.
Fun show.
Mr. Black.
Yeah.
We this is the second in recent weeks where we've actually gone abroad and done something fun. And you guys, I'm going to let you talk about that, but I first am going to talk about problems with pigs.
Yes, indeed. And
Yeah.
we're gonna go to a night at the theater.
Yeah, we have a travel log and theater review for you.
Yes, indeed.
I'm so excited to hear that one.
It will be, I promise you, terrible. So,
Yay!
that's what you have to look forward to. Let's charge ahead. Hey, Uncle Doug.
Uncle Dan.
What? I was gonna fix a sandwich for myself, and I like various meats, various kinds of toppings, and I was wondering if you had anything you could recommend.
Well, there is one particular animal where every single piece of it tastes delicious.
Oh, okay. Is that an ossifrage?
That's a turkey. Try the beak.
I'm relieved you didn't say human this time.
This time,
right?
We've talked about. Well, I can recommend something, and if you'd been in the right place, my goodness, you could have had all the pork you wanted on that sandwich. But
that does sound enticing.
Right. So now it's time for the How-To Heretic Farm Report. We're going to talk about animal husbandry and doing it poorly. So it's funny. We talked about the Good Shepherd a few weeks back, didn't we? And it was. We determined that it was a shitty shepherd. Like, it was not
worst shepherd
good
ever.
animal husbandry.
Right, exactly.
Well, I'm going to tell you about the shitty swine herd. So, gents, here in our weekly affirmation radio hour, we talk from time to time about the miracles in the one true book, the so-called Bible.
Yeah.
Your walkings on water, your breads and your fishes, your raisings of the deads, etc., etc.
Sure.
But what we failed to say directly is that the only truly miraculous property of the Bible is that somehow zillions of fine people still believe it's true. So Hosanna, an actual miracle indeed. So today I want to explore one of the least discussed, but I think most staggeringly significant of the biblical miracles among all the card tricks and sleights of the stigmated hand. And I submit that this weird, horrible, and almost forgotten miracle is so hugely significant, I think because it plays a significant role in the dire situation we now face in the Anthropocene age, and what is looking inescapably like the reality of this planet's sixth great extinction. To quote Michael Fassbender's David in 2012's unfortunately terrible film Prometheus, big things have small beginnings. So, buried in the 5th chapter of the best book of the Bible, Mark, as it was obviously named after me, is a weird story about demonic possession and a clearly mentally ill man in desperate need of help.
I'm going to interrupt you, by the way, just to say that at some point you and I are doing a showdown where it is Daniel versus Mark, and we're gonna figure out which is the best book in the Bible.
I get to sit as judge of that competition.
That's right.
Yeah, you can defend the book of Douglas.
Nobody cares about the book of Doug.
Not the least of all me.
Well, actually, in Daniel, there's a story, right? Something happens.
There's a few stories there. It's pretty exciting. Yeah. There's lions.
There's a weird
and
dream.
Yeah,
all that shit. So, in Mark, in this weird story of demonic possession, which Jesus does help this poor soul with his crazy Messiah magic by orchestrating a mass extermination of perfectly innocent animals.
Right.
This, dear uncles, is the miracle of the Gadarene swine.
Woo!
Yeah. Now, do you guys remember this one in Sunday school?
I do.
Yeah, ish.
Only because of how terrible it is.
I don't remember it at all, and that may be because in our 53-hour Mormon Sunday services, my brain was trying to kill itself by holding its breath. It was so bored with the ceaseless droning. So it may have been mentioned.
I think I remember it from seminary. I don't think it ever got when I was a teenager. I don't think it was ever taught to me when I was, sub-teen, pre-puberty.
Right. Well, that's milk before pork, right? So it's you were ready. Sorry, non-Mormons. So I don't remember it because I think I would because they never shut the fuck up about the rest of Jesus's miracles. And I don't know. Maybe it's just this is such a dark and witchcrafty sort of miracle. Maybe they just thought it was too frightening for young ears, like you were saying, Doug. So Anyway. So this critical story that is a kernel of so much needless suffering in the world is so short, I can read it in its entirety to the folks at home in under 2 minutes. I, Mark, shall quote the person who wrote Mark, but was not Mark, here in the King James Version, and I quote, "They came to the other side of the sea, to the country of the Gadarenes, and when he had come out of the boat, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit, who had his dwelling among the tombs, and no one could bind him, not even with chains, because he had often been bound with shackles and chains, and the chains had been pulled apart by him, and the shackles broken in pieces. Neither could anyone tame him. And always, night and day, he was in the mountains and in the tombs, crying out and cutting himself with stones."
Oh, my God.
It's just a beautiful book, isn't it?
He's the neighborhood loony.
Yeah, he's a sick man, and so when he saw Jesus from afar, he ran and worshipped him, and he cried out with a loud voice and said, "What have I to do with you, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I implore you by God that you do not torment me." Why would he torment him? So anyway,
this is such classic schizophrenic stuff. Mm-hmm. This is just a man who needs some psychiatric.
He needs some help. And I'll get to it. And so, for he said to him, "Come out of the man, unclean spirit." Then he asked, "What is your name?" And he answered, saying, "My name is Legion, for we are many." Also, he begged him earnestly that he would not send him out of the country. Okay. Now, a large herd of swine was feeding there near the mountains. So all the demons begged him, saying, "Send us to the swine that we may enter them." And at once Jesus gave them permission. Then the unclean spirits went out and entered the swine. There were about 2,000. And the herd ran violently down the steep place into the sea and drowned in the sea. So those who fed the swine, and they told it in the city and in the country, and they went out to see what it was that had happened. Then they came to Jesus and saw the one who had been demon-possessed and had had the legion sitting and clothed and in his right mind. And they were afraid. And those who saw it told them how it happened to him who had been demon-possessed and about the swine. Then they began to plead with him to depart from their region.
Please leave. Can you please?
And it was Jesus they wanted to leave,
right?
Not the wild man, right?
Well, that's okay. He's got a whole flotilla of pigs he can ride away.
He just killed all of their food.
Right. All right, sweetie, that's enough stories for tonight. Go to bed.
Exactly right. So, was that version too long for you, my beloved co-uncles? Well, here it is in another book called Matthew, but not written by Matthew. And I quote, "When he came to the other side, to the country of the Gadarenes, 2 demoniacs," that's a real word. Demoniacs, people possessed, coming out of the tombs, met him. They were so fierce that no one could pass that way. Suddenly they shouted, "What have you to do with us, Son of God? Have you come here to torment us before the time?" Now a large herd of swine was feeding at some distance from them. The demons begged him, "If you cast us out, send us into the herd of swine." And he said to them, "Go." So they came out and entered the swine, and suddenly the whole herd rushed down the steep bank into the sea and perished in the water. The swineherds ran off, and going into the town, they told the whole story about what had happened to the demoniacs. Then the whole town came out and to meet Jesus, and when they saw him, they begged him to leave their neighborhood. The end. So
I just want to know, like, why are these demons so eager to jump into pigs and drown themselves?
I don't know. It sounds like they were desperate not to be cast out without any kind of body, right?
Well, in that one, but in the other one, they were just like, hey, do me a big solid and get me into those pigs, will ya?
Yeah, it was this weird negotiation. Like, that. Why didn't they just haunt the pigs in the first place?
Right, exactly. It's just it's like the guy who was able to, like, break metal with his bare arms or whatever was also able to trap a legion of demons inside of himself on purpose.
Right.
Becoming a demoniac. As
So,
we all know.
so in Mark there was one, in Matthew there were 2 possessed people.
Correcto.
So they don't line up exactly. That's
which is a first in the Gospels. So
we'll end up talking about things in the Bible lining up in the next segment. So anyway.
We'll get to that show.
Yeah.
So I mean, why tell a story once when you can tell a substantially different version of it twice in the same perfect inerrant book written by the creator of the universe, who also knows every time you get a boner. But if that was not conclusive, it appears again in a book not written by a guy called Luke that is almost exactly copied from the one not written by a guy called Mark. I won't bore you with it. It's the same story, kind of. So, okay, the Bible's stupid. Internally incoherent editorial problems aside, this is a terrible story for a couple reasons. The suffering man in question was mentally or emotionally unwell, and obviously in Bronze Age Judea, nobody knew what the fuck being mentally ill really was, nor what to do about it.
Well, they knew what to do. So you tie him up with chains.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Chain him up where the pigs eat. So any abnormal behavior was devils or witches' curses, right? So in a way, the ancient storytellers are kind of off the hook. But it's the people in 2019 that should know full well that someone suffering like the man in this story needed real help, not a mass pig slaughter orchestrated by a weird, blonde, blue-eyed rabbi, and they should stop thinking what happened in this scenario is okay. So fuck you for thinking there's a moral to the story of fucking with a disturbed person and somehow mass murdering animals wholesale for no fucking reason. That is not moral.
2,000 pigs.
Now wait
2,000
a minute.
pigs.
You are asking me to believe that Jesus Christ himself can't accurately diagnose a demoniac? I say nay.
I disagree with you, sir. Well, show your work. But
so it sounds to me like this was some other story that predates the Bible. That
like
Mark,
most of them, yes.
Yeah, that Mark wanted to find a way to kind of...
to add Jesus in.
Yeah, to get Jesus into the story, but it's ghastly.
Well, also
it's like ancient witchcraft kind of thing.
It's the scapegoat idea, right? It's this idea that like all the bad things are now in the pigs, and this guy's off the hook, and this leads to a whole bunch of bad ideas, including now, Haredi, like ultra orthodox Jewish people.
Doing kaparot.
Spinning chickens over their head and whipping all of their sins into that bad boy instead of keeping them for themselves.
Yeah. So the other significantly more horrible part of this is obviously the idea that casually destroying 2,000 animals as a remedy for a non-existent demon possession is perfectly acceptable. Just from the most material point of view, how many people can 2,000 pigs feed in a shit-poor, desperate, hot part of the ancient world? If you guessed a lot, you are correct. Now, as most listeners will know, pigs are considered dirty, shitty garbage animals, as laid out in the most wonderful book of the Bible, Leviticus, as we discussed in episode number 9. But in addition to pigs being unclean and therefore inedible, so are owls, ossifrages, as Dan mentioned, oysters, ostriches, eagles, greater owls, weasels, and lesser owls. But crickets and grasshoppers are fine. And just in Leviticus alone, the gruesome, ritualistic, sadistic wasting of animal life in pointless, stupid sacrifice to an empty sky is nightmarish enough. So the Jewish religious prohibitions on consuming pork obviously factor into this awful, old, and not true story. And if this awful, old, untrue story was seen as just that, then it wouldn't matter enough for us to be talking about it today. But despite it being one of the less repeated of Jesus' so-called miracles these days, it got traction with the worst people in the Christian sphere at the right time. Now, we've talked about the truly diabolical Augustine of Hippo on this show before, when we did our 2-part segment on hell in episodes 76 and 77. But to recap, this 4th century piece of shit was one of the early cheerleaders of the fully fabricated idea of eternal hell and all its fiery punishments for the people he hated, which was everybody. So he and another monster, Thomas Aquinas, took the stupid miracle myth to mean that human beings had exactly zero responsibility to the well-being of any other form of life on this earth, and that doing so was akin to Satanism. So I will quote the wonderful St. Augustine here. Christ himself shows that to refrain from the killing of animals and the destroying of plants is the height of superstition. For judging that there are no common rights between us and the beasts and trees, he sent the devils into a herd of swine, and with a curse withered the tree on which he found no fruit. That latter bit referring to Jesus killing a fig tree for the crime of being out of season.
Right.
Another one of his fucked up murder miracles.
No, that one's fair. Fuck that tree.
Yeah, fair. And that's a true story. I mean, we know that one's true.
Right.
So 900 years later, a no more enlightened Aquinas would write, if in Holy Scripture there are found some injunctions forbidding the infliction of some cruelty towards brute animals, this is either for removing a man's mind from exercising cruelty towards other men, or because the injury inflicted on animals turns to a temporal loss for some man. So what he's saying basically is animal life exists only as sustenance or forced labor for humans and has no intrinsic value of its own. And obviously the critical nature of biodiversity for human survival was not even a concept the writers of God's perfect book were capable of grasping. So this has led to 2,000 plus years of countless good Christians believing that all wild and domestic animals exist only for human consumption, toil, or cruel entertainment. It has also led to the Christian belief that animals are unable to even experience pain or fear, let alone possess any emotional or familial complexity. And while you might want to shrug off the writings of Augustine and Aquinas as ancient ramblings of old monks, these were and remain enormously influential figures in the Christian sphere, casting a long dark shadow across the world even to this day.
Totally.
So,
yeah, of course they do.
What they said about the mindless utility of animals infects the recesses of the Christian mind, regardless of denomination. And if this stupid story of Jesus sending a small town of demons to haunt suicidal pigs and all the Catholic sadists finding justification in the New Testament story aren't enough, let us travel to where the Christian heart really dwells, the Old Testament. I've said before, and I believe it to my marrow, I've said on the show, the soul of the American Christian resides in the fetid killing fields of the Old Testament. They just find the New Testament useful if polite company's coming over, like, putting out the nice china and washing the blood off their hands for a few uncomfortable hours a week. And it's right at the beginning of the Old Testament that the OG justification for the brutal, thoughtless annihilation of the creatures we share this earth with can be found, Genesis 1:26. And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth, which is my new favorite word, creepeth. That to be very specific about what creeping things do.
Yes. If you see a creeping thing that's just sort of meandering or moseying, you leave that alone. Only
Reminded
the ones
it
that
must creepeth.
It must
Yes.
creepeth.
What a different world we'd be in if the translator had used the word responsible instead
Right.
of dominion. The
Right.
man was responsible for all the creatures of the earth.
Right. Instead, it's just like, fuck it. Just do anything you want.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
I read that about the Dominion, and I get really mad that these beasts are not obeying my orders.
Oh, but if you think you're frustrated, try having cats. Right. So Doug and I know that pain firsthand. So
Exactly.
the
I have
typical
dominion
background-
over you, bitch. Dominion.
Get up out of that little sunny spot and obey. So the typical background rate for species extinction pre-Anthropocene, which is basically the age of humans, was 1 to 5 species a year. We're now losing a couple dozen a day. There are cautious estimations of possibly 30 to 50% of all species currently on Earth being gone in 30 years.
We don't need
So, yeah, why are they so delicious if that's a sin? So, obviously, there are factors outside the weird influence of the Gadarene swine and Christian numbness to any pain other than their own. There's the inescapable reality of catastrophic climate change, horrendous oceanic pollution and overexploitation, and the hideous, inexcusable plague of quack Chinese medicine and its demand for tiger penises, rhino horns, seal penises, the nightmarish cruelty of captive bile bears, and on and on. And look, full disclosure, and I think you guys would probably join me in this, I'm not speaking from much of a moral high ground here.
I was going to say, is this the day that we learned that Mark is a vegan now?
The night I started researching this segment, I failed to realize the incredible irony of the pork chop I made for dinner. That's true. And while I've been a vegetarian off and on for decades, I've never been a vegan. I'm not even arguing that one has to be a vegetarian or a vegan to live an ethical life, necessarily. I think it's always possible to be a more ethical omnivore, or at least to consider the origins of what we consume, because everybody's got to find their own philosophical path to the plate. And if not, I'm nothing if not an ethical hypocrite on this subject. But we in the West should understand the roots of our feedlots and our veal pens and our debeaked chickens who aren't allowed to stand up for their miserable lives, or dogfights, or our fucking white assholes in their trophy hunting. And our general nihilism towards animals has its roots in the good fucking book.
Right.
And a half-forgotten, stupid story about a poor sick man and a magic rabbi killing 2,000 pigs for no reason. So when I quoted David from Prometheus saying big things have small beginnings, this is what I meant. That stupid fables from a Bronze Age backwater are still poisoning the world thousands of years later. And I think that's a bad thing. So...
Well, I hear your message loud and clear, Uncle Mark, and I'm going to take it to heart. And the next time I have a ham sandwich, I am going to cast a devil into it.
Yes.
I'm going to salt mine with my tears while I eat it.
I wonder if this has anything to do with that. Remember that canned deviled ham? Remember that Underwood?
Oh, yeah.
Deviled ham.
Could that be a connection here? Have we blown the lid off something?
We have, absolutely. Jesus cast the devil into that ham.
And then Jews.
Yeah, I want to go grocery shopping with David Icke and see how he responds to a can of deviled ham.
I saw the devil with Goody Proctor's bacon.
It's all coming together. So that's the Gadarene swine, boys.
I do like in that story though how all in all three versions, the people were like, you know what, you got to go.
Please leave,
Jesus. You got to go.
Please leave, Jesus
Christ. Isn't that
Christ.
weird?
Yeah,
like that's super weird. It's like, yeah, you're fucking spooky, dude. Get out of here. Now, those people had it right.
Yeah, exactly. So okay, get thee behind me, Jesus. Let's move on. Well, fellas,
yeah.
We have some folks to thank. Some of the best people in the world. They like to show up in our neighborhood and put money into the kitty.
Indeed.
Sure.
The kitty, by the way, is a cat, an actual physical cat.
Yes, it's a money cat.
It's a very disturbing practice, but we do it anyway, and that's that. So we have some folks to thank. Let's jump right into that. Yep. These are our newest patrons. Thanks to Michael, Brent, Sinjin, by singular, and we have some folks to extra doodle thank.
Holy smokes!
We were a little bit remiss and may have missed besainting one Mr. Sterling. So, Mark, on the fly, you need to come up with a saint for Sterling.
Well, it's not really on the fly, Dan, because it comes to us through the power of discernment. So
yes, but that flies around. So I figured it was flying to you.
Yeah,
that's what on the fly means.
Even though I'm in a different time zone, I can discern that Sterling, which is a solid Mormon name, good job, Sterling, or Sterling's parents, that your patron saint is Saint Deliciosa of Carbondale. And as we know, of course, she is the patron saint of Better Late Than Never, the patron saint of Micronesia, and those weird eggs in the big jar of green water you buy at the gas station. So, yeah, whatever those are wonderful. So, congratulations, Sterling.
Fun fact, that is antifreeze, in point of fact. So
I'm sure it is.
Those eggs are in.
Yeah, so I'm sure it is. I'm sure you're right.
So, Sterling, you're safe now to eat the antifreeze eggs.
Yes.
And to venture into Micronesia, which is delightful.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
Congratulations on that. There are some more people to thank, however, and we're going heavy. We're coming in hot.
What a week, guys. Patrons, come on. Thank you.
So sometimes a patron gives enough that they get an extra special thank you, and all of you get to appreciate it. So, Uncle Doug, whichever one of you. It's Uncle Doug. Uncle Doug, tell us what is the sainthood, or rather the heaven that is in store.
Get it together over there
for Manya.
Yeah, come on.
So,
dude.
Okay, look, we're going to talk about it in a minute, but I just spent a day watching. I spent 4 years watching 1 hour of theater last night.
4 years. And you slept in a tent. I get it. You're fine.
That was last night.
Exactly.
Okay, listener Manya Smith. Like the sands of the hourglass, so are the days of our lives. And one day in the hopefully distant future, your sands will run out. And as the last grain falls through the funnel, you will close your eyes for the last time. Unless, of course, you die in an explosion, or a headshot, or I guess a head-on collision when you're not paying attention. I guess there's a lot of ways you can die without closing your eyes. Let's just move on.
Right.
Manya, sure. In that day, darkness and silence will overwhelm you. And just when you think you'll spend eternity in the sunken place, you'll hear a soothing swish sound, followed by another. You will feel familiar warmth spread over you, and light begin to infiltrate your closed eyes. And look, I know I fucked up the whole closing your eyes in death, so you could open them up in heaven, but let's just move on. The swishing sound has crescendoed to a soft roar. The warmth is now hot, but not too hot, and the light is causing you to squint. You open your eyes slowly, allowing them to adjust to your new world. Before you extends an ocean of deep electric blue, meeting somewhere off in the distance with a pale blue, cloudless sky, as small waves crash at your feet. White sands extend to the horizon on either side of you, rimmed with impossibly beautiful palm trees and greenery. You realize your face is shielded from the midday sun by a hat woven from palm fronds, and you are holding a hollowed-out pineapple with a little umbrella and curly straw. You take a drink, ice cold and sweet. It perfectly quenches your thirst. But your taste buds jog your memory. You know this place. You've been here before. You were on a vacation and remember distinctly whispering, "This is like heaven." You glance around and see no one, which, if you remember, is part of why you liked this moment. Sometimes all you need on a vacation is a vacation from those you are vacationing with. A song tickles your ears and you recognize it instantly. Nibbin' on sponge cake, watching the sun bake. Ugh, Jimmy Buffett's 1977 mega hit Margaritaville. You hate this song. And you remember that it was playing when you were here before, and in spite of that, you were perfectly happy in that moment. No worries, though, you think. I'll just wait for the next song. You take another drink and notice the pineapple is full again. Score! You drink long and deep. You feel a pang in your chest. Heartburn? Shit. I did have a little heartburn that day from the rum and fruit juice. That sucks, but it's not too bad. Finally, Jimmy wraps up with, "Yes, and some people claim there's a woman to blame, and I know. It's my own damn fault." Finally, it's over. Then you hear, "Nibbling on sponge cake, watching the sun bake." Oh, God, no. You try to set down your once again full pineapple, but your hands will not release it. You try to get up, but your body won't budge, and the heartburn is starting to really hurt. You see, dear Manya, God is a busy man, and during your entire life, he only had a few seconds to pay attention to you, and when he did, you told him exactly what heaven to craft for you. That was an easy one, God thought, and moved on. Had he watched for a few more minutes, he would have seen you get into a fight with that bartender over his all Jimmy Buffett mixtape, fall asleep in the sun and get horribly sunburned, and then vomit from all the sugary drinks. But he didn't. Be careful what you wish for, Manya. You just might get it forever.
Wow, Manya. Congratulations.
Yeah, that is a delightful time wasting away in Margarita Hell.
And I think that Margarita Hell, exactly. I think that's caution. Don't ever like anything.
Yeah, I think that's the lesson that we should all take from that, is that liking things is dangerous.
Right. Can get you in the end.
Indeed it can. Thank you so much to you, and I owe a heaven to Cymbal Banging Monkey.
Woo.
Yes, I will deliver that now. Okay, Cymbal Banging Monkey. So you've died. Sorry, but you decided to share the love with your uncles, so we, as promised, have pulled a few strings, called in a few favors, and gotten you into your own beautiful heaven. As you open your eyes to view your new eternity, you're instantly blinded by flashbulbs. You look down, and beneath you, your gorgeously clad body is an elegant... and beneath your gorgeously clad body is an elegant red carpet. Security guards furrow their brows and lower their centers of gravity to maximize their ability to keep your screaming fans at bay. Reporters shove microphones in your face and throw questions at you, but they're not even audible above the din. Never mind, you smile and avoid them with poise and grace. You are adored. You are beloved. You are a celebrity. Finally, you reach the door to the theater that this red carpet has led you to. It's a film premiere, and you're the most important attendee. You've kindly agreed to give a small speech before the show, so you're whisked away to a green room fully stocked with champagne, lovely non-staining snacks, including your favorite treat from that bakery you love so much, and a bowl of gummy bears with all the orange ones picked out as per your contract writer. There you sit, monarch of your domain, sipping the finest bubbly and trying to find good light in that room so that you can do a funny Instagram post with one of the gummy bears on each of your shoulders. Is that funny? It's cute. You're pretty sure it's funny. Your fans will like it. But which color goes on which shoulder? You try a few permutations before you decide that the red goes on the left because that's the devil, and yellow goes on the right, but only because there aren't any white ones. Finally, 2.5 hours later, after you've arrived, it's time to give your speech. A 20-something assistant to somebody guides you down a series of tight concrete corridors until you're finally in the wings, waiting to take the stage. You stand through a series of people's speeches about how important this film has been to them and how much they believe in the project, and until finally your name is called. The crowd leap to their feet as you enter the stage. It's all decidedly smaller than you expected, but you know this scene well, and you start your lovely 4.5-minute speech. As you dazzle them with your wit and easy charm, you realize it's 7:30 at night, and these are the first people you've spoken to all day. Odd. You finish, but you won't be able to watch the film, I'm afraid, because leaving now through the back door is your only chance to get out without 3 hours of post-film schmoozing and exhausting graciousness. Better to make your quick escape. Your driver takes you back to your building where a small crowd of loyal fans and paparazzi await your return. No bother, the driver will just take you down into the parking structure and you can take the freight elevator up. When you finally get to your spectacularly well-appointed penthouse apartment, you kick off your shoes and ponder that word. Apartment. Huh. You decide that it's called that because it keeps you apart. Apart from the world, apart from fans who love you, apart from humanity. You pour yourself an embarrassingly expensive glass of wine, and you go to your Twitter feed to see if anyone's buzzing about your speech. They are! You're trending! You're an influencer! You reply to one particularly kind tweet knowing how much you'll make the day of that person, that random person you'll never meet. This is the power you wield. You sit on your balcony with one of the most glorious views of the city and muse on all the beauty of the lights below. So many fun places, clubs, restaurants, shops that you know you can never go to without being mobbed by fans. You look through your telescope and see happy people out for walks in the park. A thing you wouldn't even think of doing except in a disguise. And that's a risk because those damn paparazzi are clever as fuck, and then you'll be mortified to have yourself found out to be using silly costumes just to try to feel that sense of ease you once felt in public. You have friends, of course, so don't despair. Unfortunately, you never know how much they like you for you, and how much they're just trying to be able to drop your name in conversations with other people that they're keen to impress. Everybody wants a piece of your delicious pie, and I'm afraid that means that vicious social climbers will perpetually try to elbow out anyone who could actually feed your soul or give you a true sense of connection. You, cymbal-banging monkey, are one of the most important people in your whole eternity. You bring joy and comfort to millions, and I really hope that knowledge gives you joy and comfort because you're trapped forever in a gorgeously appointed social wasteland. Enjoy!
Enjoy!
Yay! You did it. You're going to be isolated and alone and sad, but famous. And that's great.
Famous is really the most important thing you can be, isn't it?
It is.
I'm pretty sure that's true. So there you go.
Totally.
Congratulations, and thank you all for your kindness and your generosity. These are all people who donated to us. They went to the How to Heretic website, which is howtoheretic.com, and you click on the tab that gets you to the
Support
Patreon.
us tab. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
and then you just sign up. It's super easy. You choose how much you want to give or how little, and then your uncles love you even more.
Indeed, we do.
That's right. So with that, let us move on.
Cha-cha.
Well, guys, Uncle Dan, Uncle Doug.
Hello. Yes.
It turns out that we were all three out of town just recently, but not together.
Yeah.
Well, two of us were together.
2/3 of the triumvirate were together.
You were.
That's right.
You bailed.
We're uncles abroad in the land, and I understand that you guys went. You took a road trip to a theatrical extravaganza.
That's right.
And behold, we did go unto the wilderness, and did see for ourselves that the people were there,
Yes.
Yes.
And lo, the community theater was long.
and but nevertheless boring.
Yeah, we suffer for your sins, dear listeners.
Oh my God! So
we
much.
just recovered from the fucking Ark encounter.
Exactly.
I know.
Yeah. Well,
Uncle Dan.
tell us where you went, fellas.
Yeah, Uncle Dan and I went down to Manti, Utah, which is a town about 2 hours and 15 minutes south of Salt Lake City,
Yeah.
for what is called the Mormon Miracle Pageant, or the Manti Pageant.
Yeah.
It's a nice little town.
Yeah, it is a nice little town.
And I'll tell you what, the drive down is gorgeous.
It is.
So there's nothing.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of complaining about that.
No, and the company was wonderful.
Thank you.
We've had unseasonable rain here in Utah the past few months, so things were greener than they normally would be.
It's true.
And so Manti, just little background, is a town that was founded by Mormons in 1849.
Okay.
Right after they got settled in Salt Lake.
48. They come to Salt Lake.
Yeah,
47.
47. Right.
Yeah.
They come to Salt Lake, and then they start sending out explorer ships.
Yep.
To
Settling
satellite communities.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And basically anywhere there was water, they wanted to be in control of it, which makes sense.
Right. There wasn't much.
There wasn't much. And what happened with Manti was a Ute chief named Wilkara invited Mormons into his country.
That's a bad idea.
It's a bad idea
Never-
to teach them some agriculture. Yeah, don't invite Mormons into your...
White people in general, if you are a tribe occupying an area of the Americas,
Of the world.
and white people come and say, "Hey, how do you do your farming?" Don't
tell them.
Don't tell them,
Don't help them.
for the love
Yeah.
of God.
Right.
So just fast forward, however many 150 years from then, and they began doing a pageant in Manti. And a pageant, for those who don't know, is kind of a big community play.
Yeah, well, it can be a number of things. In this case, and this is the case. This is not the first pageant of this kind that I've seen. It's the first Mormon one that I've seen. But in this case, what pageant ends up meaning is an audio playback and a metric fuck ton of dopey idiots in bathrobes walking around in front of you.
Oh, Uncle Mark, you and your aesthetic eye, we would have had to call an ambulance.
Really, honestly.
Well, I've seen video of this, and I think I went when I was a teenager.
Really?
I know I have some memory of it.
Most of which
but-
is repressed, blocked out.
There was a lot of self-repression in addition to the community repression that was going on. But
Right.
But it is kind of dizzying in its craptacularness. But it's also largely volunteer, right? Isn't it?
100% volunteer.
Oh yeah.
I think there are some technical
A few
people
paid
who are
staff.
paid.
Right,
yeah.
right.
Maybe the director.
But all the cast is volunteer, right? All the makeup and
when you say all the cast, we're talking almost 1,000 people.
Yeah.
for real.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the reason that Dan and I decided to get down there and see it this year, that, by the way, there's also a pageant that Mormons put on in Nauvoo, Illinois, and upstate New
Yeah.
York that we were contemplating going to visit, and after having seen one of them, decidedly are against it.
I'm still going without you guys.
Have at
Well,
it.
because when you experience an evening of theatrical perfection, why fuck with it, right?
Well, and
Why
it's true. It's true. You don't want to mess with perfection. Although
you're never going to duplicate that high.
Yeah.
as a theatrical professional myself, I just feel like I need to feed my own soul that way. So.
Right. You need to fill the coffers.
That's right.
Well, it turns out that the Mormon Church is putting the kibosh on these plays for reasons I don't fully understand. I've tried to find it.
They haven't explained it at all. They just said no more.
Yeah.
We're not doing this anymore.
Right.
There's-
Because what Mormonism needs to be is less fun.
That's
Exactly.
right.
So this was the last Manti pageant that would ever be.
Yeah.
So we decided to get down there and make sure we saw it, like an eclipse or a volcano eruption from up too close.
Right, exactly. So we went down. Now, before we went to the show, we kind of tootled around the town a little bit. We discovered that they have an interesting little bazaar set up, which they call the food court.
Yeah.
Consisting of maybe a dozen, different places, most of which are offering something too sweet for any human to actually consume.
Right.
One of the booths wasn't offering any food at all, but rather was a quote Bible museum.
Yeah.
It was literally he was representing his own personal Bible museum that he contained in that apparently lives in Ephraim, Utah, not too far from Manti.
And it was a big glass case with various and sundry quote unquote artifacts of the Bible. All replicas of pottery and spearheads.
Well, he
and
claimed that the
scrolls.
pottery was legit.
Oh, that's right.
But he didn't tell us the provenance of it or like how old it's estimated to be. So I'm going to guess that it was from
truthfully.
1830.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if that, yeah. And
So was this guy one of the evangelical kind of anti-Mormons that shows up there?
We weren't sure. We never got to whether or not he was Mormon affiliated, but he was, he wasn't anti-Mormon.
He was just presenting. What he was presenting is the Bible is absolutely, definitely, 100% true, and we can prove it.
Provably true through archaeology.
Right.
I don't know why you have to prove it. It says it's true right in it. So that's the fucking issue
That's
here.
a great point.
Well,
Waste of time.
we wanted to look at the stuff, and I think we tried to avoid conflict for a little while.
Well, yes, we did. Both of us.
Yeah.
But so, listen, your uncles are only human, kids. So
Right.
we went in there. Neither of us were itching for a fight. We didn't want to do anything. We just wanted to see what he had, which consisted of some pots and some stones that he claims are
Sling stones
for a slingshot, like David would have slew Goliath with. And then some like replicas of various things with like cuneiform writing on it.
Yeah, worthless stuff. Probably worth a few $100 total.
But he's talking about, as soon as we approached, he's launching into his pitch about how blah, 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 and this is that, and that. This is a replica of a thing that's in the British Museum, and blah, 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 blah. And he kept saying things about the Bible, and both Doug and I, we bit our tongues for so long, and then every now and then something would boil over, and I'd be like, well, yeah, that's not true, though.
Yeah. Or it doesn't. It actually does contradict itself.
Yeah. And then he's
it does not.
And at first he assumed that we were at first he assumed that we were believers because everyone he's encountering are Mormons there.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, he's probably I'm gonna go out on a limb and say he's definitely not Mormon. Actually,
Yeah, he didn't have the look.
he's got that sort of evangelical feel to him. But he was used to people like Mormons believe in the Bible, so he was used to those people being mostly on his side about that stuff. And he kept talking about how, skeptical people might have claimed that this might be the case. And he sets up some straw man argument. And then, like, for instance, he said a skeptic might say that Jesus wasn't real. But then, look, all these prophecies in Isaiah predate Jesus by blah, blah, because they're from 100 BC and blah. And so I was or a skeptic could also say that the Jesus story was just written to
fulfill the prophecy.
Fulfill those prophecies.
Yeah.
And he was like, No.
No.
Cut to him laying wide awake in bed last night, staring at the ceiling.
And he said, "Oh my God, we got to get to this one. We want to get onto the pageant."
Yeah, we got to move on to the pageant.
But
this was just a weird.
He said, "Well, there's 4 eyewitnesses," and I said, "They're not eyewitnesses."
Right.
They wrote years and years later. They never knew him, and he's like, "No, they knew him." He's like, "Here's why they didn't write it down, because Jesus said he was going to come right back, and he didn't." So they didn't write it down until they realized he wasn't coming back.
And then they needed to write it all down.
I don't think that helps.
I know,
Yeah.
it's like,
Guys,
here's the thing. We thought what he was saying was true, so we didn't write it down.
Exactly.
Right. But when it turned out he was a damned liar, we were like, shit, we better record this stuff.
Yeah, he went out for a pack of smokes and he never came back.
Exactly. So let's jump ahead. We ended up managed to get kind of a crazy in the perimeter of the play, because Dan claimed I had a gimpy leg and couldn't walk the distance. Gimpy is the word he used.
Yes, I did. We were stopped by security, which was just some rando Mormon, and we were trying to drive up really close to the temple, and they were like, "Sorry, if you don't have a badge, you can't do it." And we were like, "Oh shoot, we were really hoping to see it." And they were like, "Well, you can park down there and you can walk up there." And I was like, "Oh, he has a really gimpy leg, though." And they were like, "Oh, okay, we'll let you in."
Gimpy. Which I think in Manti patois means disabled.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, yeah.
So we got kind of in the perimeter, and we got up to the top of the set, which is a big hillside, literal hillside with stuff on it. And
you were not supposed to be in there.
No,
definitely
not.
Yeah.
And we got
fantastic
a view down at the chairs they'd set up, and
which I will post to our Facebook account so that everybody can take a look, and maybe you can tweet it out and stuff.
Astoundingly, like it was bigger, more chairs, more seating than I had. I mean, I knew what we were walking into, and it took my breath away.
Yeah,
it's really amazing.
Yeah, like tens of thousands of chairs.
Yeah,
folding
really?
chairs.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's crazy.
FYI, we did attempt to live tweet this stuff, but I think the single cell phone tower in that town was wildly overwhelmed by the number of people that come for this thing, and we just couldn't make anything work.
Yeah.
So it will come out. You can see it if you go to our Twitter or our Facebook page now, I assume, because you're listening in the future. So
Yes, and it's really funny. The writing on some of those pictures is some of the best ever.
Yes.
So we went back to our campsite, had dinner, and then jumped on a couple bikes to ride back into the pageant. And we found seats, surprisingly good seats. Uncle Dan found.
Yeah.
And then we started interacting with the actors in the show.
Oh, where did you get bikes? Did you take bikes?
Yeah, we took bikes with us.
Oh, okay,
we stole them. Anyway,
that's why I was hoping you stole them.
Anyway, we stole them from the wildly overpriced campground that we stayed at. Anyway, these cast members are in their full costume and in many cases crazy amounts of makeup.
Yeah.
Right.
And they are wandering the aisles between all of these folding metal chairs, talking to people.
Yeah, chatting people up.
And of course, we wanted to take photos of them, so we would stop them and be like, "We need a photo of you. You look stupid." and then they would stop and talk to us.
Yeah, and this one trio, these two young girls and this young guy, stopped.
Sort of high school, college, like early college, late high school age.
Yeah, and we chatted with them for a good 10 minutes.
Oh, and they were sweet.
They're sweet as hell.
Mormon kids are so damned sweet.
And we're like, we asked about their roles and what their characters' names were, and are you guys, around here? A great conversation.
And they're volunteering stuff. They're so excited. They're just bubbling over. They're like, "This is my third time in the pageant. I come from Ephraim, and I come from wherever, Manti, and blah, blah, blah."
And then we're like, "Well, you guys get out there, break a leg." And she's like, "Well," one of the girls, whose name was, I won't mention it, I just realized that would be a really dumb thing to do.
To dox a high school girl? Yeah, probably.
She said, "Can I bear my testimony?"
Don't do that.
Yeah, she goes, "Can I bear my testimony to you guys?"
She said, "Can I leave you with my testimony?"
Yeah.
Oh, and kids, those of you who aren't Mormon don't know that is code for
testify.
I am going to say Jesus at you.
Yeah.
And Doug was like,
right.
It's funny because I had this moment where I was like, it would be kind of fun for me to really destroy her right before she has to go on and do a
just
show.
say no.
Just be like, no.
Say no. I don't want to hear
this is not real. And or let her bear her testimony and just be like, everything you just said is false.
Oh, poor girl. And she gave us, like, you know how Mormons are. She's like, I know everything you're about to witness.
Boilerplate testimony.
Yeah. Everything you're about to see in this play truly happened. This is 100% true.
Oh,
and
my God.
Jesus is, blah, 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 blah. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen. We're like,
yikes.
break a leg.
Yep.
Good luck.
Yep. So off they
Go
went.
get him, kid.
Off they went. The sun eventually went down, which is the necessary thing to have happen, so that the lights can come up, and they got to say a prayer first. So,
Oh my God! Well, the first thing right before it started, I had this kind of moment of there was electricity in the air. I'm like, this is kind of nice.
yeah.
Like, we're outside, people are with their families, they were about to watch a play. I'm like, this is kind of fun. Why are they getting rid of this?
yeah.
And then, spoiler alert, it was terrible.
So these guys. So yeah, a pre-recorded.
Well, look, if Mormonism got rid of everything. If Mormonism got rid of everything terrible, there'd be no Mormonism left. So there's
there's hope for the world.
Maybe, yeah, exactly.
So a voiceover comes up over the thing, a pre-recorded thing that says, "Please welcome the president of the Manti Stake," which is like just a dude who has a calling, and to
He's like a rural archbishop in Utah. Yeah,
he gets up and with another guy. Two men in you can't imagine how ill-fitting the suits are that these men are wearing.
We're 200 yards away, and we're like, wow, those suits aren't fitting very well.
Yeah, well, and we had binoculars, so I'm like zooming in, and it looked like a little kid wearing his older brother's suit.
Totally.
It was ridiculous, and then so they say a couple words and say a prayer, and then I'm geared up. I'm like, okay, this is ready to go, and then. Please rise for the national anthem, and a lady and a girl in a very bad prom dress does a fine rendition of the national
And just so everybody understands, everything that happens going forward is pre-recorded, and this thing is dubbed over. So no one's mic'd up. They're just kind of trying to match their own voices on the recording.
Yeah, from this point forward,
Yeah.
it is.
Oh wait,
all
the stake president or whatever he was pre-recorded.
I think
too?
that was the one thing that wasn't, and
No.
I'm pretty sure the anthem was, but we couldn't tell.
we
Right.
disagree on the anthem, but everything else. Okay, now that we've gotten those out of the way, we're launching in. It's all pre-recorded, and the lights go down, and they come up, and suddenly the temple's blue, and then it's purple, and then and we're hearing all of this stuff about. In 1832, and it's their best, the guy in town who had the best voice, and maybe even these the narrators may even have gone as far as to like find the best voice in Provo to do the narration. Starts telling us the story of Joseph Smith,
And so what follows is, and we can talk about some of the highlights, is it's kind of an interwoven story of Joseph Smith getting the golden plates, translating them into the Book of Mormon, some of the Book of Mormon stories woven into there, and other Mormon church history things. You're kind of bouncing around. It's kind of
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It is, first of all, the writing, yes. If you're looking for a well-spun narrative, keep looking.
Yeah.
Move along.
Is it like a Christopher Nolan, like the kind of a very complex timeline? Is it that kind of thing where you're never sure where you are?
No.
It's like watching a Christopher Nolan movie if somebody was holding your head in a sink because you owed them money.
But it's also like a Christopher Nolan movie in which Christopher Nolan keeps insisting on saying, now jump 5 more years into the future. Rather than showing us, they make sure to tell us all of the things.
But the Moroni was hilarious. So Joseph is trying to... Joseph, by the way, was played by like 5 different actors, one of whom was so Ichabod Crane.
The first one. Oh my God, he was the derpiest little... He must have been some general authority's nephew or something, because this kid, no one would put him in front of human beings as an actor. All these people can do is use their bodies, right? Because we don't hear their voices. This kid
Right.
is walking around like Planet of the Apes. His arms are just dangling by his side as he sort of tromps up the hill and then back down the hill.
Yeah.
It was the funniest
Very
thing.
heroic figure. Very heroic figure.
Right. And this is the guy playing their most important person.
Yep.
It was
funny.
delightful.
And yeah, like Dan said, the only if there's more than one person in the spotlight or being lit up, the only way you can tell which one of them is supposed to be talking is through their wild gesticulations.
Yes, indeed.
Gesticulations. It's like it's like semaphore code. I've seen the video of it. And they just do these flailing, their arms flailing all over the place.
You are
It's amazing.
100% not acting if any of your limbs are not moving at the same time.
Right.
And after Joseph gets the plates, we go to a Book of Mormon story, which was one I barely knew about. It was the battle between Captain Moroni and the Lamanite leader Zarahemna.
Now, I have to state before you do this that we had met the angel Moroni who had come to Joseph Smith to deliver him to deliver the plates unto him.
Yeah.
And then they had to say, so when they cut to the ancient Americas where this battle is happening.
And now a different Moroni.
Yeah, they had to differentiate. They were
What?
like, they chose a story that has the same name, but it's a different guy. So they're like, and then Moroni came to him, but not that Moroni.
wait.
Don't get it
There's
twisted.
two different guys. There's
Yeah,
two different Moroni
right,
characters
yes,
in the Book of
and
Mormon.
we've talked about this. One of them was the
I had
one.
no idea.
What was the one at the end? The one that's on top of all the Mormon temples. The other one was that guy who lifted up that title or banner of liberty
Yeah.
that has the writing on it.
Yeah.
Remember that? I think we covered this.
I don't know. I don't know if we covered that.
No, anyway, it's all very stupid, but I just thought it was very funny that they wrote, look, guys, this is your play. You don't have to use the story that would confuse everybody.
Right.
You can use a different story and then not have to use the same name twice, but no, they didn't know about that.
And then the Lamanites and Nephites battle, and that is the most generous usage of that term.
they literally like 36 men run onto the men. Probably 36 teenagers and 4 old guys run onto the hill, and then all just like play sword fighting like we all did when we were trying to be Luke Skywalker and we were 6 in a circle.
Yeah. And so
When
badly, like if someone ran up to me and Dan right now and just gave us 2 plastic swords and said, "Fight!" That's what it would
Yeah.
look like.
Yeah.
Well, when I saw video of this moment, because I remember clearly watching it, everyone in the scene was probably under 12, including Moroni, and like it was children.
Yeah.
There were boys running around like clappity clack clack. It was so bizarre.
What we should mention is that Manti, as a town, does not have the manpower to support this thing.
No.
What happens is a bunch of people from all over the state of Utah make this their family vacation for the year.
Yeah.
And they force their entire family to climb into the minivan, and they drive down, and they all bring their own, they bring whatever costume pieces they can. And
yeah.
it ends up being the dumbest thing you've ever
Yeah.
seen in your life.
They have
Well, they're from actually from all over the place. Our older brother does this with his kids in Nauvoo. They go to Nauvoo every year,
but
and put on corduroy pantaloons and
a lot of these actors are only there for maybe 4 or 5 days before performance.
And they only do an hour and a half of rehearsal per day.
And boy, does it show.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Why don't they do more?
I don't know.
because they can't ask these people to come from all over the state and not and actually spend the right amount of time to rehearse a thing.
Well, I think you're wrong because Mormonism asks people to do much, much greater things for free.
That's a fair point.
Right, all the time.
That's
So I can't believe they wouldn't just make them suffer through 12 hours of rehearsal. But hey, it's their show.
But why do that when they can do a piss poor job of it and waste less of their own time?
I do want to mention that
Fair.
there are some scenes where we're supposed to be watching the Lamanites, who are evil because they're brown, and the also some evil Nephites. They demonstrate their evil by the most milquetoast,
Twerking.
lascivious dancing you can possibly imagine.
Sensual dance in the form of like something that anyone on the planet would just go, oh, cute.
Yeah, like kind of a high kick. Ooh.
Yeah, exactly. I think one of them used her hips a little bit one time.
I noticed that through my binoculars.
Anyway,
Perv. Binoculars.
So anyway, yeah, Jesus comes, which is fantastic because he descends from like way up high.
oh, and it's it's great. They have some cleverness that, he's lowered down by a crane, which you can very clearly see behind him. But they do so once he sort of lands in place, smoke comes up behind him, which is what masks the stagehands that are releasing him from the thing.
Off, yeah.
And then he walks down among the people, and then he walks back up, and they didn't get the smoke quite right the second time, so we could definitely see the stagehands rehooking him back into
clip.
his
And then
thing.
does he just stay up there the rest of the play in the dark?
No,
does the guy just hang up there?
Oh, wouldn't that be great?
No, because what they do is they
He gets a great view of the show.
yeah, right. They spotlight different areas of this hill. So when you're looking way over here to the left, they lower him down and unhook him and take
change
him
the set a little
Yeah.
bit. Not a lot.
Not a lot.
But a little bit. They brought out a volcano at one point. That when they were
nice.
when they were showing us the evil Lamanites, they had a volcano. Now the one thing we were spared is they did, I think, probably they haven't always been this wise, but they did avoid blackface or brownface. They did not avoid racist costuming. Because the Lamanites are meant to be the precursors to the modern American Indian tribes. So
I think that's recent, the blackface or brownface thing, because when I was trying to get Eli Bosnick to bring the guys out to see it as part of, to do a god-awful movies about the Manti, god-awful plays about the Manti pageant, I found pictures from like the year before from the Deseret News where they were very much in brownface.
Oh, no, yeah.
Completely smeared. And this is like 2 years ago.
They moved away from it.
So they've caught on just in time. They were the most timely. If there's one thing we can say about the Mormon Church, it's that they are woke and hip.
always ahead of the curve on all things racial.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We were spared that, but they were in the worst fake Native American garb with like wigs that had mohawks on them and that sort of thing. It was.
You could just hear the costume designer screaming, "I need more feathers!"
Right? Yeah. We didn't hear any woo either, so that was so they did a good job eliminating some of the most egregious
But
stuff.
Credit where credit's due, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
there was the narrative was very weird. It didn't have like you have a lot of source material from which you could draw, pull a story out that kind of has three parts and builds to an ending.
Yeah.
This didn't have that. It ended very weirdly with Brigham Young's decision to send the Mormon militia to the Mexico War.
Oh my God. Let me tell you something. Brigham Young is bringing the Mormons across the plains to Utah. And then, you've got a couple hundred people in representing these wagon trains of people going across the plains. And then 4 guys in military uniforms tromp all the way across the stage, which takes 4 fucking ever, while the soundtrack has a little fife and a little drum. And these 4 preteen boys represent the U.S. Army conscripting 5,000 Mormon men or whatever for the
which we don't see. We don't see the march. We don't see any of it. We just see Brigham Young make the decision.
And Brigham Young.
Isn't this when Brigham Young was sending them to the Civil War? Wasn't it in Texas?
No, it was
and they slow walk. He said walk slow.
Yes, exactly. It was the Mexican American War. And they did. They never fired a shot. They got there and the war was over.
Right, because they were ordered to go slowly.
Yeah.
But also,
there's a huge monument on the Capitol grounds to them, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
the thing that they never did.
So great. There's also one of the things that I thought was delightful is that Brigham Young, after being asked to send all these men, sort of walks 8 feet away and kneels down in prayer, and that's when we get first, Mormon, or maybe it was Moroni saying a quote from the Book of Mormon, and another guy, and then Joseph Smith caps it all off by saying to inspiring Brigham Young with, first of all, the article of faith that says that we believe in being subject to kings, rulers, magistrates, presidents, whatever.
Right.
And then saying something about how this land is choice among all lands and will always be, and blah, 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 to the man who is literally taking all of his followers and fleeing that land as they spoke.
Yeah.
Like in that
That's
moment,
true, yeah.
they are running away to Mexico in that moment. And yet, that is the compelling argument.
And that's the boom boom ending.
Yeah, the mystical Joseph
Of the whole
Smith.
play?
Yeah. And it thankfully just ends there. And I got to say, the applause in the wake of it, it's like a 4-year-old did a successful somersault. That's how like the level of applause.
It was golf claps.
It was scattered. It lasted just a couple seconds. It's like, oh,
For the whole play?
For the whole play.
Well, the claps. Okay, so in fairness to the audience, the claps lasted long enough to determine, they're not coming out for a curtain call because that would take a year and a half. And as soon as they realized that there wasn't going to be a curtain call,
Time to go.
And by the way, as soon as they realized it was time to clap, about a third of them stood up to leave.
Exactly.
Because they were trying to beat the traffic. And then
Yeah, that's a very Mormon thing. It's just leave 5 minutes before the end of the play.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then the clapping lasted, that 15 seconds.
Oh, it was terrible.
Oh my God! For all that effort.
For all
I
that
mean, it was
effort.
a garbage play, but you want to recognize people's effort.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, and it was worse than I expected. I honestly it was.
And that wraps up Mormonism neatly. It was worse than I expected.
It was long and it was boring and it was worse than I expected, but the food was bad.
Right. Yes.
Yes.
At least the company was awful. So I'm not talking about Uncle Doug. I'm talking about every human. I'm talking about the shitty little kid behind me who kept kicking me. And
Oh, yeah.
And stuff. Mormon families are the worst. So
Kill them.
yeah.
Wow, guys,
So-
that sounds like a really amazing evening at the theater.
We did it.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
So if you get a chance to, definitely avoid seeing one of these pageants. But if you get a chance to see a clip of it online or something, maybe we'll find a link that we can post in the show notes.
It's
or
worth
something.
2 minutes of your time, and that's it.
It's pretty. It's just a sad state of affairs that all of these hapless rubes are literally putting on their mom's bathrobe so that they can bear their testimony about how true all of the nonsense that they're about to present is.
Well, you know what? We were talking at the beginning, and we don't know why the current and very short-term president of the Mormon Church, Russell M. Nelson, has done away with all these things.
He could live to 120. You don't know.
He sure could. Mormonism is not fun. And in kind of a serious note, I was a queer kid who was hiding out in Mormonism. These pageants were probably kind of a safe space in a weird way for those kids. And like any theater class, club at school is kind of a safe space generally. And so it's just one less place for the nonconformist, secretly hiding something kids to be able to live their truth, live out loud a little bit for a moment. So good job, Mormons.
Not anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's probably why they did it. If I found out there was some queer Bob in the costume department.
It could
Can't
well
have any
be.
of that.
I will say some of those actors seemed overly eager to dip into mom's makeup.
Yeah, that's true.
For sure. But that's what I'm saying, that there's this tiny bit of freedom and expression that comes in those moments.
Yeah.
And, that can mean a lot to those kids until they can get the fuck out of there. And
Well,
so,
if there's one thing Mormonism stands for, it's don't have freedom and expression. So that's
exactly right.
So this there you go. The
How
passing.
many stars, guys? How many stars?
How many can you give a black hole as a rating?
A neutrino, a neutron star.
There you go. The passing of a legend, the Manti Pageant. Let's move on.
Let's move on.
Well, friends, that's it for this week's show.
Hey, we'd love to hear from you. If you want to start a pageant of your own, send us an email, howto@howtoheretic.com.
Or if you've recently moved into a drowned pig, you can leave us a voicemail about it at 903-88-HOW-TO, which is 903-884-6986. I'm also on Twitter at HowToHeretic.
Yeah, hey, thanks so much once again to our patrons. We love ya.
And thanks to Cody Layton for editing the show. Love him too.
And thank you, friends, for tuning in.
Bye-bye, friends.
Bye.